si story tu blah blah blah.
Putin niangalie hiyo simu yangu. Unajua producer na sleki nayo hapo. No, the other one.
The experience. Okay, sorry. So, in adulthood, dethroned middle children may be excellent negotiators or counselors, gravitate towards non-traditional roles or career paths that allow them to stand out, experience challenges in relationships if they felt emotionally neglected growing up, and then healthy coping and growth if you identify with the dethroned middle child experience. 1, self-awareness is key. Understanding your role can help explain patterns in your life. Communicate your needs. You're allowed to take up space and express feelings, even if that wasn't encouraged early on. So reframe the experience. Many middle children grow up to be resilient, empathetic, and creative thinkers because of their unique childhood dynamic.
Muzoe kudeal na mimi.
So nikikwambia ni hivi, kitu hujaitaka kukubali ni wazazi wako hawakuwa ready kukuwa parents. That's why kuna wenye
no, my dad was.
Again.
No.
Then you don't have that syndrome.
No, okay, so I'm not going to argue with Dizo. Dizo, you're the same person who says I should not even be in a relationship.
Again.
Because I'm too strong-willed, right?
Let me Karembo, have you seen a child raised with a self-aware parent? You have never seen that.
Let me see. Wait, wacha nikwambie moja. Let me see. Self-aware parent?
Yeah, even children. Have you seen?
Self-aware parent. Hey, give me a moment.
Let me ask. Have you seen his son?
Yes, I've met the son, by the way. You know, I was shocked that story was given. I was like, that boy can't be the one who asked you that. Ati, can we meet another day? Can we meet Kesho? Like, I was like, that kid was so polite, soft, hana mambo mingi, collected, does his thing. He doesn't even care what you guys are doing. I've got to doing his own thing. That's how that boy was. So when he says, so I believe that is what he presents for guests. But wakiwa na yeye ako like,
mtu akikuzoea.
Nika ujaona your compliment. Ujaona your compliment.
Hajaiona inampitanga tu shwi. Dizo.
Bado hujaiona.
No, he was having the blank thingy, the empty
nothing. Okay, you said, you asked, have you seen a child raised by?
Oh, yeah.
Inampita.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Hey.
Yeah, thank you.
Yani mtu a compliment na uelezee compliment.
Ni kuzoea bare minimum.
Exit left.
So what I was trying to say is, like, me, what I always tell my parents, how can you raise your kids? The best way you can raise your kids is by parenting yourself. You know, that's the best way. There's no standard of how raise your kid like this, they'll be like this.
Nani anaweza press hiyo kitu ya emotional damage? Because you know what that means, eh? Most parents are still children. They're not grown up. The maturity is real.
Mimi niulize toy ya kwanza nilimwambia that was my toy. Lakini I had to force my kid with that toy. Nikule kunapenda remote toy, chukua hii.
Imagine. Hapo ndipo tumefika.
Mr. Baiko.
Mzee Baiko.
Baiko kuna watoto 3.
Kwani mmempe mwingine nini?
Alikuwa na 2.
I don't know, you tell us.
Emotionally mature father who went and stepped over. Baiko.
Kwanza alikuwa anasema sijui
hizo kwani kuna hizo kwani kuna boli yangu.
Boli yako tena bro.
Nashangaa bana, namna gani? Kwa watoto 3 nimetoa wapi?
Siamekupea moja.
Then ulichukua msichana na watoto 2.
Wewe. Siwe umempea mtoto moja.
Siwezi patia Baiko.
Ina make sense. Hii topic ni a single emotional and available partner. So kadi hizo kama unakuja, it is the right place to that conversation.
Isigoge na mbali.
Mnakuwa na ujinga.
You know, when I was laughing, we're in the right place, bro. We're in the right place, man. Karembo na, I don't know who the other person is, but salimikeni nyote.
Wenda YouTube one Doreen.
But
unamjua. Unasema tu unasema you don't know who the other person is, lakini
Baiko has been stalking you in short.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ego, anakuanga hivyo.
He even knows
Ile
that
ana-
ukigraduate he was
reverse
there.
No,
Really?
Yeah.
the Marine.
He even knows you are low. So I was like, what?
anafanya reverse
Yani-
psychology sahi. Yani ndio uone hadi
But I don't
mapea.
know. I don't know who that other person
Imagine.
is. Maybe kuna bio. Doesn't work on me.
You know, we come to the
Mbona una break?
kitambo.
Break.
Lakini kitambo sana.
Sorry?
Baiko, you're
So mimi na
breaking.
break.
You're the one
You
who's
na break.
breaking.
You're the ones who are breaking.
Okay, sahi tuko sawa.
But let me take you. You guys, basically what you are talking about is sijui ndizo kama ushaikutana na hii concept inaitwa attachment theory.
Uh-huh.
Na mostly it describes, you've met it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I haven't, but
Oh.
yeah, I'm learning. Okay.
You describe, it basically describes how people form, according to the topic, how they go towards or how they approach issues like love and trust, especially in relationships when they become adults. Because mimi napenda kuanzia from the beginning. It all starts from that point zero ama ground zero wenye ulikuwa unapeleka Karembo from parents. These parents create other parents. That is, you as a child, you are created into a parent. But it starts from there. Out things like safety. Attachment theory, basically how people form attachments. And it comes from their care.
Baiko is breaking.
That is their them when they're children.
Papa. Okay. Baiko, you're breaking. Baiko?
Ni mic.
What about now?
Yes, now you're better. Shikilia tu hapo sisonge.
Sasa niko juu ya mti.
Ambia hiyo ng'ombe isitoke hapo.
Ama enda chukue kiwaya shikilia.
Hata nifunge kamba. But I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
it is broken down in stages.
Oh
There
my
are
God,
4
it's
types of
worse,
attachment.
Baiko, it's terrible.
Ameka nini?
Baiko, are you in the front or the back on top of the cow?
You guys
You're moving. Tell the cow.
are the ones who are breaking.
No, imagine. Okay,
Sasa
Mr.
ni-
Producer,
inamaanisha
hebu
ni network
mwambie.
yako.
Ati amefunga Starlink kwa ng'ombe. This farmer is so rich, but hata Starlink haezi eka hata okay. Yenye hii ni bunduse ukweli.
Baiko,
Okay.
ebu
Try
try.
again.
So, you are saying you're going to break. For us, we are very clear on this space.
Saizi tunakusikia poa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sultan mimi nakusikia vizuri sana.
Ati Sultan.
sisikii Sultan.
We can't hear Sultan. No. Oh, goodness.
Then the issue is on our side. It's not the other side.
Then, okay.
Yeah, is on your end. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Tunakusikia lakini kuna venye unakata
You
breakage fulani.
So,
Shida ni kwenu.
Hebu endelee. Unajua ukisema
Sultan,
hivi tena
hebu
tunakusikia.
drop and come back.
yeah, Sultan can drop and come back because can hear you.
Sultan arudi.
Mbona mnafanya sabotage? Mbona
So,
mnafanya? Baiko. Mike.
yes.
Okay, now.
Mnatusikia?
Sasa nakusikia.
Okay. So this attachment style is broken down into four types of attachment, and it is based off the bond that hiyo Kenya mlikuwa mnaongelelea earlier. I came a bit late kidogo. Nimepata mmeendelea with Dizo and Karembo and Doreen about attachment. It is basically describing how that bond between child and parent, they form that bond, or how that bond is nurtured into trust and love and whatnot. All these other things that we come about when there's a relationship involved that is now parent and child. And the first one is secure attachment. Ingine ni anxious attachment. ingine ni avoidant attachment,
Ya Karembo.
na hiyo ya mwisho ni
Ya Karembo,
disorganized.
ya Karembo ni
Sorry?
Disorganized ni anxious avoidance.
Yeah,
Ebu,
anxious
ebu,
avoidance.
ebu, okay. One.
So if we go to the secure attachment, hii ni kwenye the parent is ready to nurture or is ready to parent, and kuna hiyo closeness and independence because there is comfort there, because kenye mtoto anataka napewa, if it's time, it's emotion, whatever you name it, it is there. It is balanced. The parent is emotional. Yes, they have balanced their emotional needs, whatever they have given. Wamebalance pande yao. Our project any of the emotions to the child and whatnot. So everybody is balanced. So relationship yao inakuwa balanced. So inakuwa consistent. Basically, I want you to note this word, consistency. Na kunakuwa na responsive caregiving. The child comes to you and you give him a response. Ukienda kwake pia anakupatia response. Yani it is based of mutual understanding. The other one, the anxious attachment, is these two, they want to be close, but it is coming from a fear of abandonment. And most of the time, mtoto anakuwa clingy and overdependent, same as the parent. And it is mostly associated with inconsistent caregiving. And I will give an example. Right now, in the society that we are in, because everybody is working, this is the type of attachment that is basically formed. Juu mzazi anaenda job alafu anajaribu overcompensate probably anytime they are with the kid, but it is not consistent. So pia mtoto anakuwa na inconsistent need for attention and closeness. Anaichukua saa zile iko na hataki kuachilia ikikaa kama inataka kutoka. And with the topic that you're talking about today, you will notice even when now you bring in either a partner, it becomes a problem because that closeness is not consistent. Alafu sasa unataka kushare mtu mwingine. Of course, kutakuwa na, now we get into issues of acting out. We avoidant attachment. And this is where now individuals prioritize independence and they avoid emotional intimacy. And they seem distant. And most of the time it comes from emotionally available or now here is a very interesting place kwa sababu the child themselves is not the problem. Huu ni kama patient zero. But now the parent is the source of all of this because yeye from the things that amehave kupitia kabla apate mtoto ama before aanze sasa kukua kwa life ya mtu hii vizuri haja heal bado, so they are fearing emotion or they are fearing at some point they were so most of the time when they see or they sense that connection they withdraw. So wakijua hii closeness is not, it is not, I think the form of closeness we have is withdraw independent, they need to be independent, kila mtu afanye mambo yao, hakuna source of emotion hapo. I think I don't know who was talking about this kwenye, I think Doreen asking you a question about my needs, how do you answer? Most of the time at this point attachment una avoid the emotional needs but not the emotional needs. You're too logical. I think we were talking about logic and what was the other day? Logic and something. Logic and emotions. You avoid the logic, the emotion provide the logic. But mtoto ajui story ya logic bado. And I heard you asking about this, the different adult. A child basically is somebody who is still processing what it means to be human. An adult ni mwenye by the age of 18, bro, research yote imefanywa ikaonyesha 18, you've already understood what it it means to be a human. So you can start making human decisions. That's why unapatiwa consent here, kuvote, kuingia kuma contest, given the liberty to be an decisions. And the last one, sorry, yeah, that was
In fact,
is organized
oh, go ahead.
attachment, and this comes from individual. Acha nimalize hizo. Ina come from showing conflicting behavior. That is hawako consistent. As I said, mark the one, the consistency. They're not consistent. So tomorrow they are cold. Na hii ukipelekea mtoto, because it mostly comes from you have not emotionally matured. You have not dealt with your own things. So you seek closeness, this is what not, but you are afraid because it's a trauma. So your caregiving becomes, and most defense mechanism, and mostly it comes from abuse. So these are the main
Ana break anapotea.
Nitiri kusawa.
Ineti yake ndio ilikuwa because kama notice like when you spoke it will take some time before it really on that end. So I'm a drop ime internet ime but because I can see even Nani is not able to come back, Sultan, right?
But anyway, mi nilikuwa niseme I done videos for all those attachment styles, but Mr. mainly approach from a relationship setup, not a parenting and child setup.
Are you able to do it from the point of correlate the two, like the emotional availability on it or maturity on it, especially on those levels, and then give an example.
Not all of them.
Parent. Yeah.
So venye alisema, like how she really simplified self-awareness. Like just know your strengths and know your weaknesses. So meaning for me, any matter that deals with my weakness that I'm dealing with my son, I always have to recheck myself that I am not projecting. Unaona? Like me, I was raised up that you're a young person asking old people questions. How?
You know, you used to have that.
Me, hatukuwa tunakubaliwa hiyo. But my son would do it and
I like that you catch yourself.
Mujivuta rudi kwa brother msikize tu.
And is it not the generation hiyo yao? Because I found my daughter do that one time, and her grandma was having some guests over and she was around. So she goes ahead and asks those people, what's your name? Who's your wife? Do you have children? Where do you live? So you've come visiting my grandmother? Okay. When they were leaving, you know what she said? She told them, hey, you guys have stayed for too long. You need to go. Imagine that if we ever said such a thing. So ulikuwa unaslapiwa unajipata the next
it has nothing to do with the generation. It has everything to do with our parents. Yes.
So I have an opinion. So Gen Z. Like, sielewi kwa nini kuuliza swali ni shida. Like I will ask questions. I will, yani mi hata sijui life ya kuishi kaa ulizi swali. So anyway, I wanted to say I'm dropping a video on therapy, on demystifying therapy, and I want my platform to have aspects of psychology, because again I even talk in that episode I'm about to drop that psychology needs to be a class in our, like, because mi nimeshtuka Karembo hujaisikia attachment styles.
Mama kanisa huyu nakwambia mtu wa culture ba kienyeji. This is our kids.
Psychology needs to be in our curriculum, to be honest.
You know, first of all, people
And I've always said
the way you
that.
said it to demystify it, because when people hear you're going for therapy, they'll be like, "Oh, mental issues." They
Yes.
don't get it. Sometimes it's about connecting, understand that, getting that journey of self-awareness.
Yes.
Kujielewa much better,
100%.
and making yourself a better person.
Mm-hmm.
hata
I'm not
low
lying.
hata low watu wanafaa kufundishwa kutoka utotoni.
Can I inject
Watu ni wakora
something?
sana hii
I want to
system.
inject something. Yeah, I've held on for a while, but hey, you guys have just carried on with this garbage for too long. Don't you think that you have to stop is it what, yeah? The
Psychoanalyzing.
psycholization, no, the psycholization of everything. Like everything has this little, and everybody seems to speak with so much authority about a lot of things that have not been settled even in the field of study they're talking about.
Mhm.
And I think there's been, while there are legitimate psychological issues that you can look at and say this is happening, this probably because of this, it's actually very difficult to narrow down as to why somebody behaves as they are.
It is
Very
not difficult.
difficult.
It's
Not-
difficult.
it has
No,
never
wait,
been.
no,
It's
just
patterns.
look. You see, that's the general reaction, because the thing is, people have internalized a lot of wrong information. In my opinion,
Mhm.
let's start with this imposter syndrome, Manenos, you guys talked about. Actually, the reason I was when I talked to her about it, and she said, "Why are you talking about?"
Oh, that one was not in the show.
No, I get.
That was
There's a
off,
point.
yeah.
Okay.
There's a
okay,
point to it, because it's also a so-called psychological condition that they are trying to diagnose of people. That is the point. That's the reason why I was bringing it up.
Just
in
give a bit,
conjunction
just
to-
give a bit
Watch
of
out.
synopsis that people
Yes.
don't know where that was coming from.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, what I was saying is like for example, I actually, when you're talking about why certain people have this or they have these attachment issues, this or attachment issues, that, or this first child, this first, second child, this middle child, this, a lot of the things that you are describing actually happen to all those groups of people. So it's not a particular thing for us, this, say, a middle child thing, or because you'll find it, then you say you are likely to follow these career goals. There's no evidence to suggest that's the case, because all those, if you're saying they're artists who are firstborns, they're artists who are secondborns, they're artists who are lastborns. So it is a very, it's not a hard science. So there's no actual grounding facts that you can say, if this person behaves this way or has gone through these conditions, they'll turn out this way. Because some of the most powerful people in this world, some of the smartest people in this world, some of the most hardworking people in this world have come from really bad backgrounds. And it had the opposite effect of what you are claiming is what's supposed to happen. Because there's also the effect of creating a more competent person the harder the challenges they face. Creating a more resilient person. That is also a fact that's actually on the ground.
How
And we can see-
do they do that?
I'm saying because you meet many challenges, you're able to overcome.
So
Because
you become self-aware. Because
not-
what you're trying to
this,
say
this,
is
it's
just
no,
basically
it's not.
that.
That is. It's
Or how do you
if
overcome
at
your
all-
challenges?
If at all, it's a very narrow prism of what causes that. To be self-aware, maybe you don't have as much self-awareness, but because you've done certain things for such a long time, you just have the innate ability, because you've formed coping mechanisms, or you've formed how you overcome things, or okay, this is happening now. Because I'm trying to juxtapose.
That is self-aware.
That's
What you-
self-awareness.
I'm
Whatever
trying.
whatever you're
Yeah, I'm
discussing,
trying
that
to
is self-aware.
juxtapose this softer life we have now to say 200 years ago, because that's what would hold these things true. It's not that, because a lot of these things are new age kind of thinking that does not really address the core human condition. For example, if you're going to tell me that the way men showed affection to a child necessarily makes them turn out this way or that way, it could be any number of things. Sometimes somebody is not shown all this love. How do you say? Because what Moji said, he didn't tell them they love them, or they didn't do
Affection.
this or this, what. But because of how the communication was done, the person knew this person cared, this person is doing all these things for me, even if he didn't kiss his forehead and massage his shoulders. Oh, son, you're so smart. And even if they didn't do that. But what we are doing right now is that we are trying to basically remove the parenting, because that's what that's coming to. All these things you're trying to pathologize are actually just how do we say? They're just weaknesses of the upbringing. The kids don't have the parents. That's why we have all these people trying to segment their problems into, because they want to understand why. Why are you not responsible? No, it's because you are not taught responsibility, because maybe you didn't see your father as a responsible or your mother as a responsible person.
We'll go back. So
Why are
they've removed the parent.
Yes.
So there's an effect of not having parents.
Yes.
So you are agreeing with
Yes.
whatever we are saying.
Because
No,
And
because the thing is, you guys were talking about this segregation of how people turn out if they're born. You're talking about a first middle, I think a middle
Or
child.
if they
I can
don't have
respond. I
parents.
can
Basically,
respond to
it's
that.
just
Yes,
general.
for me, I was saying when that core government is working, that means the family. That's what I'm saying. That family, when it's not working, the effect of who you turn out is better because there are many people hands-on on the process. That's what is missing, because you're not able. Because if you say, because it was also actually a bit counter intuitive in terms of what Dizo was saying, that you just let kids do whatever, like they experiment or what, and don't impose your thinking on them or whatever that was. The thing is, the only way your kid learns is from you. So you're
That's not the only
thinking.
way.
it's not
No, listen. That's the core. No,
But that's not the only
no.
way.
Okay,
Stop
listen.
lying.
Listen.
There are kids who don't have parents.
No, that's a wrong choice
So
of
you
words.
can't say
Listen,
that.
that's a wrong choice of words. The major way that kids learn
Okay.
how to behave and the principles and life lessons is from the parent. That's
Yes,
number
majorly.
one. Majorly,
One of
there's peer influence, there's media,
Yeah.
Society,
there's
there's
school,
life.
there's life, all those things. But the reason why this core is seen as important, why it doesn't need now, oh, I have imposter syndrome, we have to find a word to call this feeling that everybody has, that they have to pathologize it to become a thing. Well, looking at this, the background of it, is the reason I was coming to the feminist thing is because it was a feminist that came up with it in the 70s.
no.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, let me
Wait. I want to hear this
So
one.
yeah, so the idea was she was trying to talk. She met a
This is
few
an asshole.
people who were successful women and somehow they were saying that they thought they didn't fit or
have
they
a
didn't get it legitimately, and they were successful and what. So in her head, she worked on this thing to say maybe it's imposter syndrome, but she coined the word herself. I can't remember her name. And the thing is this: that is a common feeling.
Such imposter
I
syndrome.
am.
Yes,
I-
such a thought process is actually universal. It's not because there's the people who critiqued it, and that's why it came up just in this common modern age feminism. It's because it was debunked a long time ago. The people who critiqued it properly to a point where say, yeah, it's weak here, here, and here. For example, they pathologize people that things that me and you would feel. We are men. Like, mazeyo kitu. Nilipata kweli. You know that we have that all. Sometimes you go to a place, you're not ready, you didn't really prepare, but then you get in there and you get it. And you're like, oh, okay. Maybe that particular day, there were just that many more weaker people than you. It doesn't mean you're excellent.
So the issue is that they named it.
Yes. No, the thing is they pathologized it.
It's okay, but
not,
you see,
What is
pathology?
it's when you take something that's
It's analyzing
normal and then you just make it a clinical issue.
Goja, no, the reason I'm saying this, I'm going to say this. It's either you're having an issue with feminists that altogether, because let's not forget.
I do.
Okay, yeah, because even in the masculinity, I know Baiko wants to ask a question.
What I said is true. It was a feminist. To
Yes. To respond.
Which is fine, but I'm responding this point. So it's a word that was coined. Isn't it not the same way we have in the masculinity guys coming up with red pill, blue pill, all
Yes.
that thing?
Yes, but red
What-
pill, blue pill is not a masculinity thing. If you know Genesis.
Okay,
Yes.
there's a way it was made to sound like that, but was who
No,
que-
they are the ones who used it most effectively.
Who?
That the people who do the masculinity content. That will be
and
my
so
description.
who, like for example, now do we now start saying again in that whole pathological kind of way of saying it's like it's nonsense? Would we still call
No,
that
they can
nonsense?
pathologize things. Yes, even
Yeah.
them. This
So
is not.
why then can we not just
Yes.
because a woman, a feminist, came up with something like imposter syndrome become an issue? Let's not forget something.
It's because it has
The reason I want to
backing
speak
and
about
evidence.
therapy or the whole psychology altogether,
Yes, I have an issue
it's
with that.
learning, human nature, how behaviors and all that, and how they cope and how they behave. That's all psychology I think it's all about. So them going to a point where they are trying to analyze from when they see the whole thing repetitively happening from one to the next to another with all the factors, be their parents or no parents, or successful or not.
Yeah.
It's something people are learning from. So we can't just call it nonsense or just say just because they're coming up with words that it's not information.
But
Because when you
that's
think
not
about
what
it,
you see, that's
no,
the problem.
it's-
You've
it's called-
pathologized what I was saying.
Can I please respond?
No, the thing is this. No, you've taken my words because I'm telling you. When I started, I said the field of psychology is important because I can tell you where it works perfectly. Social media, how they set up and algorithms. That's all psychology. To get you to click and follow and get mad, that's all psychology. They've written it into the algorithm. They understand the human reaction when you see certain things, certain colors. All this has been done. That's the real
which I
psychology.
get.
But
Can
on
we-
top
there-
of
there- there's
Which
another
I,
question
yes,
this
it's
side.
coming.
Yes,
Yes,
on
which I
top of
get.
that, on top
Because
of-
even the most successful people, even if you look at it, they also got to a place of self-awareness where they got to learn how do they cope in both situations. So it's something you can learn from them.
yes,
They
but,
get
but
to
Algo
even
said
share
he has a
about
problem
that.
with the labeling.
no, no,
Exactly, but why is it that then they don't have an issue about
because
it?
you didn't listen to what I was saying. There's a lot of important psychological studies that have been done, but on top of, just like in everything, even in medicine, you have quackery. There's a lot of quackery that was imprinted on actually solid academic grounds, and it watered it down. And one of those things is this imposter syndrome thing.
Okay, let me
Yes,
respond.
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Let me respond to you.
Yeah.
First, if you disagree with me, doesn't mean that what I've said is garbage.
Exactly.
Where does that come from?
Because you
You
started by
started,
saying
you started like that.
That's
Yes.
how you say. You
What
said
we've
it
been
is
saying
garbage.
garbage, yes.
You say what we said is garbage.
No, I said the content, not her.
No,
See,
eh,
we are all talking
we are all
here.
We're all talking
Yes,
here.
Our content
but
is
It's
garbage.
garbage. That's what
my
you say.
opinion is that, and I've described it for the last 10 minutes.
And it's
I
what
don't
she
know.
has said.
Yes.
Even if whatever she's saying is wrong, it doesn't mean it's garbage. It's
Yes,
just
my-
that
it's
what
just-
you don't agree with.
It's just my words, so
Yeah.
it's not.
no, I
my
just
words.
wanted to say that first.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not necessary.
So, what makes it not necessary?
I'm saying they're saying that the way I described it.
But we had,
Every opinion is valid.
It's
Let's just
valid.
put it there.
the
Yes,
same way we gave you
Yes.
time,
They-
even hers is valid. Be it
Okay.
it's garbage to you or not, we still valid. in the end of the
Fine.
day, yeah.
Like, I don't get this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just wanted to start by saying that. Two, you also said that when we were talking about dethroned middle child, in that concept of a dethroned middle child, there were no subjects. First of all, I described it to Karembo, and I think she understood. And she may be related. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I did relate.
You did relate, which makes us, me as a middle child, and Karembo as a middle child as well, subjects.
Statistics.
And
We satisfy that fact.
exactly. And the fact that there exists a fact, I mean, not a fact, a study of a pattern doesn't negate the fact that there can be, what do we call it? The other side. Like,
Anomaly.
yes, an anomaly, even in data and technology and all those things, the anomalies. So, if psychologists come and study patterns and give them names, it doesn't mean that if you describe what they said and not give it a name, it doesn't exist.
True.
So, again, talking about a feminist, I wouldn't know. I've searched it. I've seen there are two women actually who coined the word imposter syndrome in 1970. I don't care whether they were feminist or not, but they were women.
It matters.
Okay, me, I don't care.
The
So-
ideological inclination as to why
So-
they did it is important.
Okay. So for me, it doesn't matter if they were feminist or not, but I see a woman. The same way, a man might come and coin a term for something. Actually, the one who coined the term dethroned middle child is a man.
Fine.
Yes,
Doesn't matter. It's for that
it's
one.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. The
Same
past,
standards. I'm not applying it to a woman. Even if a man coined such a thing, he's doing the same thing.
you coined it to a woman.
You made sure we don't notice that it's a feminist who coined
Yeah.
the
Yes,
other
I was
one.
talking specifically about the imposter syndrome.
And I am
What
talking
about the
specifically about
dethroning?
dethroned middle
The
child.
dethroning, the man did it. He did the same thing the feminist.
So the man is
pathologize-
a feminist, yeah.
So he's a
No,
feminist.
he pathologized a common human interaction to make it a
That's
clinical
what
issue.
psychology
So
is.
if you're going to talk
Yeah,
about
so
coining
no,
of words in
And
terminology,
you see-
especially
and
for
you see the thing is,
psychology,
if you say that's what psychology is, it's actually not.
Okay,
To
what is
pathologize
psychology?
normal human behavior. That's what psychology
What is psychology?
Maybe
think
let me read because
as you
Okay.
get to read it, I think the first person who we can say were psychologists. We can let me use what one thing people don't like: the Bible. That's how they were able to write some of these things. You're being told, don't do this, especially if you look like Proverbs. It was written by a man. Does that mean Solomon was not a what? He's the one who wrote it, right? Was it David? Okay, but Baiko has a pressing question.
But then Solomon,
Baiko,
just to add, Solomon died a shitty life. Solomon is not what we were told anyway. Solomon was such an asshole.
I know.
and
But
see,
he's the
you
one
see,
who was
ac-
giving.
actually
Anyway, but let
Oh.
Baiko speak and then we can go. We can proceed.
Mimi kuna security kwa hiyo.
Pardon?
Atunasemaje Maiko?
Kuna security kwa hiyo nyumba. Security team.
Please, we need.
Tumeita bana, tumeiweka hapa nje ya mlango.
We need.
Jamani, unajua Dorina anakaa mtu unaweza mghost, alafu ukiingia job asubuhi unakutana na mtu ako na demand letter to appear in small claims court.
We need, please.
But let me say this, one thing I know vipi bana, by the way, sikuwa najua alikuwa kwa hapo.
nilikuwa nasikiza tu hapa.
Najua hali ya anga huko iko safi kabisa.
Iko timam.
Iko acha ninyamaze tu, nasikia vibaya lakini ni sawa. I'm going to agree with Albu on one thing, that all of us have passed through some sort of not some sort of, passed through childhood. And I think that is where he was going with it's not about firstborn, secondborn, no. I think that this Karembo and Doreen were just relating to the positions that they were. This is a familiarity thing. But the difference is when you become an adult, now your actions become your own. You become responsible of your own actions. But now where we find ourselves, which is where we are, we find ourselves in embracing the darkness and going through the rabbit holes. Not embracing the darkness at the edge of the rabbit hole. No, we go deeper. Let's explore why we are what we are. Because now what we see is people now like pulling threads of, bro, let me explore my choices. We do this at a point of comfort, not a place whereby we are fighting shit. We are doing it from a point of comfort, that you are somewhere you want to self-actualize, to become self-aware, and be responsible of your choices. For example, the topic of the day today, that is single parents and emotionally unavailable partners. If you are truly at a point of comfort, then you can be able to look at this from a point whereby it is going to reflect on so much of what you're doing. It is not correct or wrong, it is just reflection. So that you can forge a way forward. Because the things are happening, as you're saying, we are getting to a point whereby there are no parents. Where are these parents? I am a parent. I need to understand, why is my child behaving the way he's behaving? What am I not doing? because the world is becoming more harsh and the realities are becoming more harsher. I need to get to a point whereby I am standing in front of the bullet before it is shot to my child. Right now, we're just responding. Since we become first responders to accident scenes, where we are in the world right now, shit is already happening. Sasa sisi sina swali nini imefanyika hapa, and then we avoid all that shit again, and then it repeats itself. But where we are right now, exploring all of this is coming from a point whereby we want to understand what is this we are witnessing. What can I do, or what am I doing? Sijui kama mnanipata mpaka hapo.
Tunakupata.
Yeah, so you can go ahead, man. And kama Dorina amekaa karibu na Anboba na kuwekwe security hapo.
No, let me. There's something I wanted to
Kuna
ask.
security mkubwa hapo. Go ahead, Babu.
Let me. There's something I wanted to ask, because really, for me, it's not so much the argument as much as what's the truth. Okay, because the thing is, you cannot dispute something that you see every day. If you say you feel like an artist, or you have this thing because you're a second born, and you happen to be a second born, that it is what it is. But if you can't point to another like a significant difference, so between, say, the propensity of a firstborn to be an artist as opposed to a secondborn, say like it's an 80-20 split, then it's because that's usually the issue I have with a lot of the psychology, because I think most of what is really important getting into your head, they already know. They know which part of the brain to touch to turn on some things, and there's a lot of that has been understood. It's been tested. That one I appreciate. I also know that a lot of how we think is chemically driven. So there's
what
yeah.
what you are maybe I think when they said a dethroned child, they were not talking about a second, third, or fourth. They were talking just about in a family, a child who gets dethroned has certain
Attributes.
And in fact, when we referred to an artist, it was just an example.
Yes,
It didn't
like,
mean
it
that
doesn't
all
mean that your
artists-
second child
And the
will
best
become
part-
an artist.
Yes, I'm not even an artist. Are you
I'm
an
not.
artist?
I'm
No,
actually more
I
interested.
get that. That's why it needs, like, especially if you are giving some kind of prescription, it's usually best when the minutia, the details are known. Because if you say that, okay, you might have a propensity to do this because there's this child who came after you, and then you had to be pushed aside, maybe is that something a firstborn will go through also? Is because
No,
the
with
firstborn,
that
then
now
the
you
others
start
come.
looking at
Yes.
the parents, because although there are those parents who have equally raised their children based on how their children are.
Yes.
You know, now with those children hautakuja na hizi cases za huyu alikuwa dethroned, huyu
Yes.
alikuwa second born,
Yes.
as in how walikuwa raised in a secure setup.
Yes, where you don't feel, because I think a lot of that comes from setups where resources are scarce.
Yes.
Because you have to pass on to the weaker child more resources as they're
So
growing.
that is the angle they are
Yes.
coming from. Ndio hiyo yenye nilikuwa naambia Karembo.
It doesn't really
you
have to be
agree.
about. It doesn't really have to come from a point of a weaker child or whatever like that.
No, idea here is the setup. Like it comes from a setup. Either scarcity or like and most of the time
Don't
it's
you
just-
think-
No, I don't think that kind of dethronement really means that it's more of an I think that attention of the parent, not at scarcity from a place of at the weak or
What do you think?
But
scarcity
wouldn't that
is,
be
Karembo?
no? But wouldn't that be one of the things they're
Yes.
deprived of, in addition to the material things? Like, it's not just the psychologically. I'm not hugged as much. I'm not carried as much. They don't speak to me as softly. And then there's this one. I don't get as much material things.
But if you
of,
look at how
you
we
know.
grew up, okay, apart maybe from soft life diesel, I believe all the kids there was scarcity.
Oh,
In
yeah,
terms
no,
of
that's-
apart first
Kuna
born
scarcity.
pale na last
I
born.
was
Well, last born
born
wacha
from
na
a
kujua
six.
acha na
No,
last
no,
born.
I'm a firstborn, by the way.
No,
Bonge la
So
abundance.
it,
That's all
for
I know.
me, if I even if I think about it, even in our family, my father actually did more things for my sister, and we didn't really complain, right? Because we kind of understood, like she needs just a bit more than us because the resources are infinite, they are not infinite. You're like, fine, me, I can handle myself. I have more strength. I have what. So there's just that general social understanding that if we applied it for what it is, instead of trying to say, oh, this will traumatize a kid, is it that this kid raised? This kid was raised to appreciate
it
that.
does traumatize a kid. As in,
No.
the problem is demonizing the trauma. There's nothing wrong with being traumatized by something. It's the lack of acknowledging what you've been traumatized by. That's the problem.
No,
And that's the way you
this
get
is
to
the,
do
this
the
is what
self-awareness.
I'm actually fighting against. What I'm fighting against this argument is the fact that so many things are classified as traumatic and they are not.
Like,
Like saying that, oh, maybe I didn't get the bright colored toy that I want, although I'm old, but my kid bro got because maybe it was 50 bob more. Just for argument's sake, Like I have to learn that you have to let go of some things, which I find to me to be a strong point of actually growing up, as opposed to, oh my God, I've been denied of things, I'm now destitute. Like there's a difference.
so you should look at it this way, Albo.
Yes.
Let me just land this on Afunini.
Yes.
Look at it this way. You were raised in a secured setup.
By and large.
Like, as in, I'm
Yes.
saying, like we are just,
Yes.
you were raised in a secured setup. In a way, you were taught how to turn your misfortunes into strength.
Or not let them bear you down. That's
Basically,
usually-
now
yes.
they turn them into strength.
Yes.
And then now you are coming from an entitled point where you think everyone was also raised from a secured setup.
That's not the case.
Because when you say that,
I know people are not raised in the same
so meaning
setup.
you do understand when mtu kama hakubaiwa toys,
Yes.
they'll project that on their kids by buying expensive toys. You do
Probably.
understand
Yes,
that.
and some just don't buy on the other opposite end.
On the other ones, when you bring you up kwa secured, wanaona it's really not necessary.
Yeah.
Unajua like, so meaning kuna wale watu wenye that shit affects them.
Yes.
And you have to acknowledge that. Si ati kukuja na hiyo kusema ati me I feel hiyo ni you're coming from an entitled point of a secured
No, the
where
thing,
you
the thing
can
is this.
discern
Me
situations.
personally, toys was not a big thing in our house.
Okay.
Toys like
For
shiny
someone-
things. Nah.
For someone it was.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. That's you actually come back to my point. The kind of arbitrary standard setting cannot be used because you said, okay, this person will feel bad because he didn't have toys at this point, while there are people, the toys were just not part of their lives. Like we knew those were luxuries.
No,
Yeah,
you're
there is a
entering a
question.
So
topic.
that's not privilege.
There's
That's
You're
just,
entering-
just being real.
You're
but
entering
it's
a
only-
topic that doesn't align with you.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Like, if you have no problem with toys, if it never affected you, it doesn't mean
Yes.
it doesn't affect another person.
But
So
you
you
know-
can't tell them at
No.
But you know,
No,
Albo, what
people-
I say,
people
maybe it affected them.
No, people
But
can
Albo
get
is saying-
affected by
And it's okay.
so many things. So many.
Even the toys.
No, dude,
but you know,
yeah,
you
but
called
I'm
it,
saying
we stop putting everything as traumatic.
yes.
So the
that's
question
what
I
you're
want
not.
to ask-
This
But
what
that
I'm
is
trying
trauma
to-
for them.
No,
but
it's
Albo,
not.
How?
that's what I want to say. You
Then
see
kill
that
them.
privilege where you come from, that you didn't have to feel like there's any trauma.
Yes.
Everything was done for you. Like you felt everything was.
We made our toys, like we used to do
Yes,
those.
in that whole you felt complete. But you see now the interesting thing. Do you think with that kind of entitlement could probably say if you look at
How is it entitlement? I don't get it.
Because you think everyone should be like you.
or should have
No.
gone,
That's you see.
created the
You
toys
see
or
this.
something
This
like of
is
sorts.
that's not the case. There's
So
no,
people should be traumatic.
It's not even
Why are you
possible.
saying
Why are
it's
you
a problem
saying
to
we
be
should
traumatic?
stop
you
saying
see
traumatic?
this is the thing because the way people describe words and things affects everyone. So no, it's a fact. You see, the thing
How
is
is
this.
it affecting everyone?
Let me
Albo?
explain.
My trauma can be his trauma, can be
Yes,
her
let
trauma,
me
or
explain to
your
you.
own
Let me
trauma.
explain to you something that most people online experienced a few years ago. Okay, some supposedly traumatized people in the West decided that the men can become women, yes? And then they started saying you can't call this man a he because it will traumatize him. right? And what happened is that we experienced a worldwide censorship of that kind of behavior, which means that we were being forced to lie. You understand?
Yeah.
And which affected even people's incomes, jobs, and everything. So this is not a thing about, oh, I want everything. No, we must have reasonable standards for us to move, because not everything works.
Again-
Especially when every single thing that people feel bad about is used as this other kind of bigger picture thing where it's just trivial. So when you decide to make turn a molehill into a mountain, guess what? You don't have the resources to move a mountain that's not as exist. So you'll keep on being delusional about the size of your problems, while in real life, no, it
Now,
moves no needles.
May I
That's
respond to
what
that
I'm
now?
saying.
So first kuna assignment tukufanya, which is tell us what psychology is, and we
Yes.
take out. So psychology is a scientific study of the human mind
Yes.
and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. Number 2, the mental characteristics or attitude of a person or group. You realize when you talked about how psychology is being misused and used, you mentioned about technology and social media, it's used
Yes.
correctly.
Yes.
Do you realize that's a context? And even for those who discovered that if you click on this, you get sad, if you click on this, you get happy, that's also a group of people that were subjects and they responded to psychology, ama to the situation, ama to whatever they were responding to in that way.
Then it could be replicated on a bigger population.
If it
If it doesn't,
replicated in a bigger
that's-
population,
we should
it
all
is
have
because
more
the
right.
bigger population
have the same
did-
characteristics.
Because the concept is more true. That's why it's able to be replicated.
Yes, so meaning if
To as many populations as you put. If you take it to a rich guy, if you take it to a poor person, if you take it to a homeless person, if you take it to a single mother, it has the same effect. That's
so
what
hiyo chenye
gives it
umesema,
more
baki
legitimacy.
hapo.
Yes.
If boys were told to be identified as women,
Yes.
now ikakuwa replicated in the entire world,
Yes.
then it's because we all relate with that shit.
No.
Then how was this? You've just said
No, but no, listen, you see, you can't be flippant when you've not really understood the problem. The thing is this: you can pathologize something, and that is where you're coming. It's like you didn't understand what I was speaking about. The reason why you can turn people to start to speak like they're women and they're not women is because you pathologized a small thing and you turned it into a mountain. Now somebody can't even decide whether they're a man or a woman. Do you understand?
If your country took it, Albo, is because you related with it. Qatar refused. Was it Qatar, yeah? So wacha kuja kutuambia it affected the world. Qatar refused.
Can I
Why
tell
didn't
you?
your country
Listen,
refuse?
listen. Can I tell you what happens in Iran?
Why didn't your country
Yes,
refuse?
let me give.
If it
yeah,
affected
no,
your country,
listen. Is this?
so
listen.
meaning your country
yes.
could have refused.
No, if they didn't, then what happens?
That is
why
a
we are
problem
calling
of your weakness.
Yes,
Qatar
exactly,
refused
exactly.
and a whole World Cup was held there.
You actually recognize
Trauma.
it as a weakness.
That's
It's a
part of
trauma.
It's
Thank
a
you.
trauma.
No, no.
It's a trauma.
It is a
That
weakness.
is a
It's
trauma.
a weakness. You've decided to make everyday interactions a psychological problem that you must pile on. Even right now, the social contagion nature of transgenderism comes from that. It comes from people after they see that transgenders are being treated slightly more favorably. Say in school, young kids are seeing that these kids are coming and saying, "Me, are they them what?" They're being treated more favorably by adults and receiving time off and presents. The motivation is right there. You can condition someone the way you've seen those monkey psychological exercises. It's an actual, you
Those
can
things were
program the person
Those things
to
were put in the
respond to
same cage.
stimuli.
Albo, why didn't you turn into a gay?
Because it was not really, like, first of all, there's too many things there.
What
Psychologically,
do you mean?
No,
There's
even
many
without the
reasons.
gay side.
go
Like,
ahead.
There's
no,
many reasons.
With or
There's
without the
many
gay
reasons.
side.
Let me answer you. There's many reasons. One of the reasons is the culture I was raised in. Secondly, I'm heterosexual in nature psychologically. Thirdly, it's not a accepted cultural
culture.
practice in the culture.
Let's just go with those three.
Yes.
So why are you complaining about gays when they don't affect your culture?
Let me
Listen.
tell
Why are
you.
you
But
complaining?
no,
Which
but
people
they
are
affect,
this
but they
affected
affect
that-
our culture.
Okay,
How
I'll
you
go.
They
are
affect
saying
our culture.
you're not
I'll
gay.
go.
You're not gay.
Yes.
How is it affecting your culture?
Something that
Li-
actually
listen,
you can relate
the
to.
same
Let me
way,
ask.
the same way, feminism, and I'm going to explain it. Say feminism and all these other ideologies, how they affect you. They affect you in terms of how you communicate, how you think. They tell you what not to say, and then on top of that, access to resources and opportunities are curtailed based upon your adherence to this kind of orthodoxy.
I
That is
feel
what is
no,
the problem.
Albo-
You're just supporting weakness. That's
Yes.
all.
No,
That's all you're doing.
No,
There's
the thing
something
is,
else
you
also-
don't.
okay,
no,
Albo, let me ask you
Lizzo, the problem
something.
is this went way over your head. That's the problem.
You're just
No,
supporting
okay.
weakness, even if it went over my head. What you're doing is saying
what you're supporting
if
is
that
people
gay
to become
person-
emotionally fragile. That every little thing. Oh, I was
Oh,
born here.
no,
My
no,
mother
no.
said, oh, that's what you're supporting.
No.
then
First
you don't
of
know what
all,
self-awareness
first
is.
of
I
all,
haven't said that.
First of all, we realize, psychology aside, everything is very subjective. Very.
Not
I might-
everything.
Everything is.
A man is a man and a woman is a woman. There's
it's
nothing
very
subjective
subjective,
about
bruh.
that.
It
There's
is.
not. It's not subjective.
What do you mean? The
So
society
it's-
is
we
what
will
you
not
just
be able-
realized.
It's not subjective.
There are animals that stayed without a certain gender and developed there.
By the way, let me say this.
That's nature.
their nature.
Okay,
Their
Lizzo.
nature. It's not your nature.
Have you stayed without a woman and seen what you can develop?
No. Yes.
You haven't tried that.
No,
Yes.
no.
We have women in our society,
where is
so stop
it?
saying it's not
Where is
subjective.
it?
Now, can I
Where
please
is
get a
it?
chance to talk?
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
Yes, thank
Sorry,
you.
Doreen.
Thank you.
Because by the
So-
way, before you even speak, I actually wanted to say he had even shut down this conversation when he said his opinion is.
She was to talk wewe sasa pia tu ushaingia. So you let her talk.
By the way, this on unanishina ukininyamazisha.
Hiyo ndiyo
Sasa,
alianza
nitakuwa
kuam-
feminist.
alianza kuangusha saa ile from the beginning. That's why.
No,
Aya, go
sikuwa
back.
na mwanzo.
He's pandering to
Oh,
the new
guys.
one.
Okay, so
Eneli imetoka kwa nywele.
okay, it's gonna
Trauma.
Draw.
Anyway. Saona hata mmefanya ni lose my train of thought. But I will try.
You're on the psychology ukiuliza Albo, kamalizana na pointers zako za psychology.
So I was talking about, what was I talking about? I can lose my train of thought. But I can start somewhere nikijaribu kuirecollect.
getting back.
Actually, this thing is usually difficult. So maybe sometimes you just pick one because hizi vitu zinakuanga mingi.
No, amesema
acha ni-
anaweza
let-
pick
let-
anything
eh,
aende nayo,
eh. Acha nirudi kwa subjectivity of things.
Okay.
First of all, okay, hata thank you Michael for laughing juu nimekumbuka what I wanted to say. So, Michael talked about how these things, you can talk about how you are a dethroned middle child, how you are, wanasemanga firstborns ni nini? Parentified. Whatever.
Parents.
It gets to an age and a time where these things, like you can't keep on, okay, first of all, even the psychological tenets don't need, like they're not things for us to escape with, first of all, I think. And if at all we say that dethroned middle children act like this, I don't expect Karemo to come and tell me, no, you know, the reason I'm like this is because I'm a dethroned middle child.
She
It's
does
just,
that though. She does that. That's
Okay.
the problem. Yeah.
okay.
She does that.
Okay, okay. I didn't expect. So,
Mbona unaniongelelea?
Haujadili na trauma yako. Si unatuambiaga hapa wewe una wacha
So am I subject of any? Wait,
I'm
what
called
about
Doreen.
Let her finish then you ask
Niko-
her.
niko na swali kabla
Let Doreen ask.
kabla
Let
mtoke
her
hapo.
finish. Woi.
I'm just asking you. Do you think there is actually like an overuse of psychology where you are trying? Do I have a point at all? Where guys, everything is just being sometimes just normal
Pathology.
behavior, but then
Kwanza, what's the meaning of pathologize?
hata mimi hiyo nime-
Please tell us.
okay. When you take normal human interaction,
Concentrate.
something bigger than they are, just for the sake of
to understand
Okay.
it.
So for me, like in my understanding or like psychology and everything, I don't think psychology makes things bigger than they are. Just describes things. So for instance, if we are talking, okay, start talking about nini, depend psychological.
Emotional instability.
Yes, if you're talking about emotional instability, we are not making it greater than it is. We're just describing it because
is
it
there.
exists. It's there. And even if it's not there for you, it's there for someone else. If you didn't like toys growing up, I liked toys growing up. If I was denied, I was denied, and maybe it makes me feel a certain kind of way. Again, that's very subjective, you know. So again, traumatic experiences ni very different. Okay, I think to end up have to define everything, and which I don't want us to get there. But
before
no,
you
no, no.
speak, ngoja, let her finish, but then Baiko is coming after.
Okay, thanks for the order.
Kitu lakini sawa.
You just- umesikia ni mimi nakuangusha, tulia. Doreen, as you were
Do you think
saying.
everything is traumatic?
Baiko,
If it's not pleasant, do you think everything is traumatic or not pleasant?
I don't have standing to
what's the
say whether everything is traumatic because I'm not everyone, and I don't know how Dizo reacts to things. I don't know how Karembo reacts to things. So I don't even have standing to come here and authoritatively say that, you know what, being a firstborn is not traumatic. I don't even have an experience of being a firstborn. So why would I even be talking about firstborns?